Procedures. It's been a great run, yeah?
Oh yes, it's been a dream run for both these babies. I mean, one is a 25-year-old and one is about 40-year-old.
Do you know, Vinod, that right after the engine work, this is the first 1200 kilometers it was completed in this rally without one hiccup. Apart from day one, which was obviously teething issues, but apart from that, she's been running so fine, running, tailing you, and sometimes you've been, struggling to keep up with the vehicle.
Yeah.
The gear ratios are perfect. And, it just is so right for this kind of environment. And would you like to see what all has been done?
Oh yes, why not? I mean, this has been the inspiration for the SUVs of this age. And just why don't you show
the original SUV.
Yeah, the original SUV. What does this have?
Right here. That's where the business end is. So this is a 2.2 liter, 75 horsepower, affectionately called the Hurricane. 72 horsepower engine.
Yeah.
And obviously called the Hurricane, and for good reason, because it does go like a hurricane, especially when it's tuned this well, and you can barely hear it. It's only when you start, picking up speed that's when you start hearing the gearbox, not even the engine.
Yeah, it just ticks in.
It just ticks in. Just like a well-oiled machine. It just works so well.
So you were talking about the low-end torque, what this engine had, and how it really aided you in driving in hills. Why is it just perfect for the hills?
The gearing, the way the engine is, it has a long stroke motor, and the way it makes its power, all the torque is right at the bottom. And I'm able to hold third gear at around 25 kph, and it climbs cleanly. It's such a clean climber, even at 25 and doing third gear. It just works so well. And while you are doing a downshift, I'm holding it in third and just climbing. So this has a complete charm of its own, and driving it.
Yeah.
It's not just get into the vehicle and clutch in and then start driving. You need 15 minutes of prep time before you actually start driving these vehicles. Warm them up. Watch those gauges, what they are doing, because most of the times, what you expect them to do, they're probably not doing that. They are 40 years old. They are vintage vehicles, so you need to take care of them. You need to be gentle with them. But if you know how to get things done, they will do these kind of rallies. Procedures. Okay. Brakes on, clutch in, neutral, ignition on, boost pump to make it easy. Okay. You can hear the pump. Yeah. It's primed. Switch it off. And now I will start it. And hear the ticking idle. No problems whatsoever.
Right, but why don't you talk about these tires? I think whenever we stopped in at any dhaba or any place, right, children would come regardless of the gender, even the elders. They would say, "इतने पतले टायर में गाड़ी चलती है क्या?"
So these are called NDMS, non-directional mud and snow tires. They are meant to go off-road. There is a misconception: bigger tires means better. It's not necessarily the case all the time. These thin tires work very well for this kind of setup, and the tread pattern absolutely functions so well over here in this kind of terrain, going off-road. And even though they look thick, They work very well. We have got a lot of grip. We've got a lot of a lot of the suspension work happens through the tire. I'm running 20 psi, and the ride is more supple than the big tires that you have. And you can see that when we are running, we are not slowing down for a lot of bumps.
This is something which is very, very iconic and very, very specific to India, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. Just
This
why
is
don't you
the
talk about this?
ventilated windshield, so you can get a little bit of aircon when you open it up. There you go, and you lock the rollers back into place, and you've got aircon. You've got more aircon. So there's a lot of wind coming into the car. It's very well ventilated. You can lock it into place, and that's why the windshield wipers are on top. So they still work when the windshield is open. That's where we went backwards. We've got a ventilating windshield, but the wipers came down.
And ventilated windshield here was an extra.
Yeah.
It was deleted on the production car, but then few good things had to continue, and hence it's there. It's found its place there.
That's in place. 2 locks, 1 lock here and 1 lock here. Now let's talk about your ride.
Okay. All right.
This is probably the last version of the original CJ, and why don't you tell us what this is all about?
This is Mahindra Classic. This was the export version, right? It was called the CL340, which was exported, and then it was launched in India in the year
340 DP.
DP. Yeah, and this was launched in India in the year 1996, and all the embellishments whichever the export model had, right? This one got it, and this was the first ever, probably the lifestyle vehicle that Mahindra had launched way back in 1996, right? You've seen the stark difference, and this is probably the most modern CJ3b ever built in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're so similar to each other, but yet they're so dissimilar to each other as well, because there are so many things that are different about them, and the way she drives and the way she drives, completely different characters. And I'm not saying that this one's bad or good, but this is a completely different animal, and that one is a completely different animal.
So this particular vehicle has got a 2.1 liter naturally aspirated 62 horsepower diesel engine, and DP, CL340 DP. DP stands for diesel Peugeot, and this is what this particular vehicle has. And this vehicle is 1979, and in the same year DP, which is your diesel Peugeot as an engine, came to Mahindra's as a dieselized form, and this one is a 1996 model of the same.
Why don't you show them what it looks like?
Yeah. The opening mechanism is just the same because the bodies are almost the same.
Almost identical.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is a high-speed diesel. This redlines at about 4,800 RPM, and at 1979 engine, right? Redlining at 4,800 RPM, it's quite a task.
Today's diesels are doing what? 4,000, 4,500?
4,500, 4,800 max,
Yeah.
not beyond 5,000 at all. So this is also a very, very torquey motor. This produces about 12.1 kgm at 2000 RPM, and the fact of the matter is that produces almost, this engine, the older engine, produces 14 kgm at 2000 RPM. So, and hence this engine was chosen that, at least this could match this one's capability, right? Coming back to diesel, gives 14 kpl straight away, no issues, because the vehicle is very, very light. This is an indirect injection motor. This is not a DI. This is an indirect injection motor, and gives about 14 kpl because
exactly
it's
what
very,
you're
very
saying.
light.
That is why the diesels came into form, because that's about 7 to 10 kpl, and we were worried about average in 79 as well, and people started looking for diesel right back then, when petrol was what, $1 or $2, I think.
No idea.
We weren't born then.
We've been born.
That is definitely older than me.
Yeah, so that's about the engine, and talking about the modernity in this car, this got booster brakes.
Oh yeah, it has brakes that don't require you to stand on the pedal.
Yeah, and this vehicle also had the disc brake.
Disc brakes.
Disc brakes were introduced.
Very,
This is
very
a complete disc brake assembly here, and this was the modern stuff, quite a modern stuff there. Now, visually, this got lot of embellishments like
What
this
make it the
bumper,
classic?
like the bumper, your headlamp grill, then insect mesh, this classic monogram.
The dog ear fenders.
Yeah, look at the difference. And the biggest is that this got the fending extensions. So this one was a 48-inch wide axle. This one got a 51-inch wider axle. So what this did is aid a little bit of stability and also improve the turning radius of the car. Then again, a modern aspect in this is that this came factory fitted with the radial tires. This never had the radial tires earlier.
So there's your difference. The large radius compared to the tiny NDMS.
Tiny NEMS, right? Now, this is the most distinguishing feature of the Mahindra Classic. So, these are the spoke wheels, and these wheels essentially were manufactured only between 1996 to 1997 or max 1998. After that, these wheels were stopped. You cannot get these wheels in any other Classic. Classic was under production till the year 2003, and these wheels beyond 1997, 98, they were not
That's
available.
pretty rare.
That's very, very rare. Come a little bit here. See, these are quite chunky, large rear view mirrors, and just zoom into these kind of mirrors. See how small they are. Yeah, pretty classic. If you just look at the whole structure, this got a fairly comprehensive soft top with doors. This also got the doors, right? But
So it has folding doors.
yeah, these are folding doors. You have to
So
roll
you just
in.
unwrap them and you put them back here.
So this is one of the most comprehensive instrumentation cluster that a 1996 vehicle could get. So I'll show you how comprehensive this is. Even the modern cars today do not have such comprehensive analog meters, right? So these are all the telltale lamps. These we call it the Christmas tree. Lot of lamps. This one is your battery battery indicator, then low oil pressure indicator, turn indicator, hazard switch, high temperature warning, low fuel warning, your glow plug signage, then your park lamps, high beam, front fog lamp, rear fog lamp, both were accessories. Now the low brake oil fluid warning, park brake warning, 4-wheel drive high. And this tortoise is very, very specific. No other Indian car had, or even the abroad. There's a symbol which signifies that you are in 4-wheel drive low, which means that you're walking like a tortoise. Oil pressure gauge. No modern car has an oil pressure gauge today. Temperature gauge, pure analog. Fuel gauge, amp meter, not there anymore. You won't find it on any of the modern cars, and of course the speedometer. So this has been quite comprehensive. And like modern cars then, right, you had this wiper stop, right, intermediate, low and high.
This is as simple as it gets. We got 3 gauges, 1 speedo, 1 fuel gauge, and the temperature gauge. And we've got lights for low oil pressure and battery charging. That's all there is, and that's all you really need. Vinod may say otherwise, but that's all you really need. But what's really good over here, the controls are different. So right here is my headlights. This is for interior lights over here, right under the dash. This is for the auxiliary pump, boost pump that we installed to make it easier to start sometimes. Otherwise, she runs on a mechanical pump always. This is your turn indicator, left and right, and the good stuff, 4-wheel drive. So it's got a three-stick transfer case. So this is your main gear shift, 3 gears, 3 forward, 1 reverse. This is to engage the front axle, and this is for low and high. So it looks very complicated, but it really isn't. And that's your dipper switch. You don't have stocks here. This is how you go to high beam. So you use your foot and you go high and low. And
That's so cool.
And that's what makes this vehicle so different and charming. It's got a different, completely different feel to it whenever you're out on the road.
One thing that is common between these two cars is the location of the fuel tank. It's quite rare to sit on a fuel tank,
Yeah.
right? The passenger
And that too, gasoline.
and that too gasoline. And this is something which did not change in the 20 years that these two cars have been,
Have been
separated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this got the fuel tank is about 40 liters, right? An effective average of about 8 kilometers per liter.
Yeah.
So about 320 kilometers is the total fuel.
So on the civil vehicles, the spare wheels were always mounted on the side because the tailgate opens downwards and you can open it like that and you can take it up.
Look how this is mounted. This particular Classic, this was very, very different because the spare wheel was mounted in the center of the tailgate. And this Classic again was thoroughly off-road oriented vehicle. This also came with a standard pintail hook, right? This was meant to pull trailers, meant to pull the vehicles that were stuck. This was the first time in the history of Mahindra that a 4x4 vehicle got a badging. And this became so iconic that people even in two-wheel drive cars they would plug this out and put it there.
So
Yeah.
it's only in your times that you needed to tell people that four-wheel drive, I have a four-wheel drive, right?
Yeah.
Back in our times,
Yeah.
you looked at it and you knew it was four-wheel drive. We didn't need no badging.
Yeah.
We didn't need to tell people that, this is a four-wheel drive. And one look at the vehicle and you always knew that this is something special and it is meant to conquer stuff. But here obviously we've gone into an era where people were driving more modern machinery by then.
And by then the roads also had become better,
Yeah.
and hence the two-wheel drive also started making their mark. So that's about the differences. I would say that it's very, very difficult to choose, right? Which one do you like? That's because if you like petrol, then obviously this is the one, right? This is the ultimate, right? But if you need a bit of more practicality
That's a
and the
workhorse.
diesel workhorse, availability of parts and stuff like that, then this is the one which you can live with relatively more easily.
I think it's safe to say both these vehicles, whether they're petrol or diesel, will outlast both of us.
Yeah.
If they're kept well, they will definitely outlive us.